Good afternoon. Welcome to the Professional Development for Artists Grant Workshop. I'm Martine Collier, Executive Director of the Arts Council of Hillsborough County, and we have also with us today Eileen Blake, who is our Communications and Strategic Initiatives Coordinator. So we have a PowerPoint to go through to help you all understand the grant. Let's do a little housekeeping first. First of all, we are recording this so that if you want to go back and review anything, there will be a way to do that. Also, the way you ask questions through this session is to put them in the Q&A box. And if we don't answer it right away, we will keep checking that, and Eileen will keep reminding me of questions that have to be answered. So without further ado, why don't we get started? This is our first time doing this particular grant workshop virtually, but we did our organizational grant workshop virtually, and it got a lot of people were very excited about it. So we will be sending a survey out after this so that you have the opportunity to tell us what we can do better going forward. So Eileen, if you'd like to go to the next slide. So about this grant program, the Professional Development Artist Grant Program is for either emerging or established artists in Hillsborough County. There is a maximum award amount of $2,000. Matching funds are not required. But it is important to understand that this is a reimbursement grant program. So if you receive grant funding, you will have to spend the money and submit your reimbursements, your receipts, and we will reimburse you as soon as we get that. And we try to do this very quickly, so you're not out of money very long, but we do have to get the receipts first before we can reimburse you. Now, this can only be used for two things: permanent equipment to continue your artist work, or an educational experience to learn something related to your craft. And in that case, it can include travel. I will tell you, during this past year with the pandemic, some of the artists that received the educational experience, the experiences were either canceled or the travel was canceled or something. So there were provisions made so that they could reapply for permanent equipment because they would not have been able to have that educational experience. We are hopeful that that will be different this year, but since nobody knows, be aware that we will be flexible if you end up not being able to do the educational experience that you would most like to do. So just a little background from this past year. Okay, Eileen, next slide. So this is the grant eligibility. One of the most important things is that you have to be a permanent resident of Hillsborough County since October 4th, 2019, and remain so during the funding period. You have to be a US citizen or permanent resident. If you've received this grant within the past 3 years, you're ineligible. After 3 years, you do become eligible again. And full-time arts-related faculty and higher education are not eligible, nor are applicants or recipients enrolled in undergraduate or graduate degree programs during the time the their funded project is in progress. And the grant period for this will begin January 1st, 2021, and I believe it goes through August 31st of 2021. So that's your window for when you choose what you want to do. So go to the next slide, Eileen. So again, you can go for equipment, and it would be something very specific to your art form or to education fees. Cost of travel to an education experience is allowed, and also lodging is allowed, but only for you, not for anyone else. Next slide. Okay, what's not allowed? Well, this is pretty self-explanatory. but it's good to look at it before you decide what you want to make your grant application for. Where perhaps the most significant thing on this is this grant is not for capital improvements of your space, for equipment for your space directly related to your work, to your studio. It is for specific equipment related to your art form that is not a capital expenditure in your space, and just you will want to keep that in mind. The application due date is October 16th at 5 p.m. We strongly encourage you to submit before this date. If you submit before the date and we have enough time to review some of it, if we see something amiss, we can tell you before the due date. Also, because this is an online process, you never know with computers whether your computer and the online system are going to be compatible. So submitting the grant application at 4:45 p.m. on the 16th is just a recipe for trouble. So we encourage you to attend earlier. And again, here's the grant funding. Grant funds have to be used between January 1st and August 31st, 2021. And if you spend any money on this prior to that date, we cannot reimburse it. So all of your receipts have to be during that grant period and submitted via the online grant system by August 31st, hopefully sooner. If your experience is over, or you purchase the equipment, if that happens in March, you can certainly submit whenever you have achieved what you put in your grant application. So you don't have to wait till then, but that's the last that we can accept it. So if it's over sooner than that, we encourage you to get it in. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the online grant program. So first of all, we're going to be looking at last year's application for purposes of this slideshow. That's correct, isn't it, Eileen?
Yes. So if you see 2019 dates, yours will say 2020-21, but we used screen captures from the previous grant period just so you could see what it looks like in the system.
So you will select the Professional Development for Artists grant program, and then you will create your application. So you must do all of these tasks except for budget support, which is optional. So this is eligibility, proof of residency, artist information, proposal information, narrative, upload. The proposal budget is not optional, but uploading budget support is optional. Upload artist resume, work sample, upload work samples, certification, and cultural equity study. So all of these need to be completed. So you will get a green check mark to indicate each retired task that you have completed. So it should be fairly easy to see what's done and what still remains to be done. So these are the things that can fulfill the requirement for proof of residency. Florida driver's license, tax property receipt, income tax return, lease agreement, Florida vehicle registration or voter's registration, pay stubs, whatever you submit, it does have to be uploaded as a PDF. And this is the slide where you do that.
Just going to chime in here really quick to say the reason we called this one out specifically is because some people did this incorrectly last year. So just pay attention to making sure that, you know, what we're looking for is something like your driver's license. You know, we need to know that you live in the county.
And I'll just add the reason for that is Hillsborough County gives the money for Hillsborough County artists, and they want to make sure that we are actually supporting Hillsborough County artists. Budget, just a couple of little tips. You can't include a comma or a decimal in your number, and you've got to insert something, even if it's just NA in each category. Otherwise, it will stop you. And every check mark is green except for the optional budget support. When you get to that point, you've completed the application. And you can click on any of the sections to go back and see if you want to change anything or what you've done. And then you confirm the submission of your application. You have to you can review it first, and then you can submit it.
Yes, and when you submit it, you get this second pop-up that asks you again if you want to review and submit. So you actually have to hit that button twice. And if you don't,
you really have to submit it twice, or we will not have received it. And here's the other thing. If you correctly submit it, you should get notification. If you don't get notification, contact us, or check it again. But they will. Here's where they let you know that you have submitted it, and you should see it here like this, and it should be then going to staff review, and this is to determine your eligibility and ability to move it on to the panel. Again, in the process of staff review, if you've submitted early and we see a problem with the residency or whatever, we have a chance to be in touch with you and say, this isn't going to work, why not try this? So that's why we encourage you to apply early. That's not going to be something that can happen if you submit the final day or the day before, likely. And this is the contact. If you have questions, contact us. We're very responsive. We want to help you any way we can in this process. And I'm going to look at the questions and answers right now, because now is a good time to see what. Okay, so can you be awarded this grant for an artist residency that you've already been accepted to but have not yet attended, or do you have to be officially accepted during the upcoming funding period? If you could not be reimbursed for anything outside the funding period, but if you're officially accepted, I think we need to check the guidelines a little further on that. Jonathan, we can get back to you. I'll make a note. I just need to double check with our grants compliance manager and see about that. But typically, if there's no money spent, that wouldn't be a problem.
He said, sounds good. Thanks, Martine. Does anyone else have any questions? You can put them in here. I'm also monitoring the chat in case there's anything there.
Anything else anyone has questions on? Yes, Cynthia Maloney. Raise her hand. Cynthia raised her hand.
Okay, Louisa is asking, do you have any examples of recipients from last year who were approved?
We can provide you with the top scoring applicant from the past 2 years, if that is helpful. We just would redact the name, and but it is public record, so we're happy to do that. And I think it's good to look at the top scoring from 2 years rather than just from last year.
Louisa says that would be very helpful. Thanks so much. And Cynthia, if you have a question, if you could type it somewhere for me, I can read it out from Martine, or we can try to address it, but I'm not seeing what you saw, Martine.
Okay.
Oh, Is this available to see again online? I was late, sorry, at a workshop. Yes, we are recording it, and so we'll have it on YouTube, and it will be available to view.
And please, if you have friends that are interested in this grant that were not able to attend the grant workshop today, feel free to share that link with them. We would like to have as many applicants as possible.
We have another question, which is what errors are most common amongst the applicants?
Things not adding up in the budget. The math being off is probably by and far the largest. Grant panelists also get, they don't like to see errors of spelling or grammar, but I think that the issues where math is not correct are the most concerning, basically.
Someone else is asking, where do we get the application, or who do we email to get the applications of the past winners? If you could use this email that's on the screen right now, which is just arts@hillsborocounty.org, we can return that to you. Another question is, how many applications are funded versus submitted? Typically, thanks.
The funding, well, first of all, you have to, it goes in order by the top scoring all the way down, and we fund by the score until we run out of funding. And we don't know the exact amount this year. It's typically around $30,000, and that's probably what it's going to be this year, but it goes by the score that you get on the application, and then it's in descending order until we've spent the money that the county has allotted for this.
Are we seeing, I'm not seeing any further questions, but there's still an opportunity here if you guys have anything you want to drop in.
And this isn't your only chance to ask questions, because again, what's on the screen, contact us at arts@hillsborocounty.org. We will respond very promptly. And so, feel free to do that. If you haven't started working on the application, you will likely get into it and have questions you haven't thought about at this point. So that's perfectly fine. This workshop is just to kind of get you started and kind of hit some of the highlights. But we understand between now and when the application is due that other questions are going to come up, and that's fine. Someone asked what the errors are most common amongst applicants, and I mentioned math being especially, but I can't encourage you strongly enough not to wait till the deadline to submit your application, because we can find things that we can help you make right before the deadline if you do that. And try and ask your questions as soon as possible and not wait until that. That has cost many people the ability to be sent on to the panel because there was an eligibility issue or something that, because it was submitted so late, there was not a chance. Once the deadline hits, it's the deadline, but we can keep talking to you about your application up until the deadline. So, and continue to answer questions.
Yeah, the one last thing I'll chime in with on this note too is that there was, a hiccup in the system with our organizational grants on the very last day that they were getting submitted. So some people lost about like an hour of time, because they were doing some sort of update in the background. You don't want that to be, right? Like, it just stressed everyone out that they had a little hiccup that afternoon. So, if your application is already in, if they decide to do some sort of update in the system, then you don't have to worry about it.
And we have no control over that.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you call us and they're doing an update in the system, there's nothing we can do but tell you, we're really sorry, you really should have submitted this before.
So it's just for your own best interest, as well as our ability to be more helpful to you. If you can submit it sooner rather than later, that's always best.
Yeah, we want to help you if we can, but we need to have it in order to see it.
Yes.
Um,
Help us help you by getting your application in sooner rather than later.
um, and I'm not seeing any further questions. Nothing else has come in, so I guess maybe one last chance. If somebody has something to put in, now's the time.
And again, if you have a question very specific to what you're doing, then the best thing to do is contact us at the address on the screen.
Yes.
Well, thank you all for coming today. We will send you the link to the workshop. We're going to send you a survey so you can tell us how to do this better next time. And you can contact us, anyone that would like to get copies of applications, that high scoring applications from the past 2 years. Just let us know at this address and we will be happy to send those to you.
One last comment. Somebody is asking who just arrived if there will be a way to rewatch this, and the answer is yes. You can also email us at that address, the arts@hillsborocounty.org one that is on the screen right now. And as soon as we get this uploaded to YouTube, I'm happy to send you the link. You can see the whole thing, and then if you have any questions, we can get to you.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending. I'm going to close the meeting and stop the recording so that Eileen can get the recording up so that you all have access to it. Thank you very much again.